Hey guys, welcome to today's video. We're going to be talking about the Miami Dolphins defense in 2021, what to expect from them, where they're going to improve, what they're going to do in a 2021 breakdown of this defense. Before we get started though, please drop a quick like and a sub on today's video. That would really help my channel grow. I'd really appreciate that. With that said, I hope you enjoy the video and let's dive right into it. So as I said, we're going to be talking about the Dolphins defense and pretty much what they were able to do in 2020 to start, right? And then we're going to talk about what they're going to look like in 2021. But, Jerome Baker led the team in tackles, 112 tackles. Obviously, Xavien Howard had an insane year with 10 interceptions. First guy to do that since I think 2007, maybe 2008. But this was a defense that was really productive, and I mean you can see some of the sacks too for this Dolphins defense too. I mean guys like Jerome Baker had 7 sacks, Kyle Van Noy, who's no longer with the team, 6 sacks. I mean this was a team that was able to get to the quarterback quite a ton. I mean ended up finishing the year 41 sacks. That was definitely in the top half of the NFL. But they brought pressure on the front end. They had really good back end play too, and overall this defense was very solid. And if we look at their stats overall. For the entire season, you can just look at how good they were. Team defense-wise, and that's just based off pure points allowed, the Dolphins ranked number 6 in the league. And the reason they ranked number 6 in the league is because they had so many turnovers, and especially turnovers in timely situations. And that was created off good pressure, good schemes, but more importantly, Xavien Howard with 10 interceptions. That was the team defense last year, and you're not going to see that amount of turnovers again next season. That's very unlikely. Those are things you can't really carry over year to year. But the truth is the Dolphins ranked 23rd in pass defense last year, which is a little concerning, especially with the amount of turnovers that they were able to create. It shows that they were giving up a lot of big plays, and they kind of got burned a lot by Buffalo. That was one of the teams that really killed them. And run defense-wise, they were slightly better, I believe, I want to say. Yeah, they were 16th in run defense, which is kind of just dead in the middle, dead average. Big part of the reason they were that good was Raekwon Davis, who was an absolute man-eater in the middle of that defense. But overall, this defense was really good last year, and the reason they were good last year is because of the turnovers. Turnovers are things, as I said, you cannot carry over year to year. But nonetheless, I think that what they were able to do last year defensively was a lot, and they were really good defensively last year. However, let's talk about the guys on the roster now, and let's start with the front four really, and let's start with Christian Wilkins. Christian Wilkins was actually really good last year. And this is a guy that does not get enough credit. He really does not get enough credit. He had 1.5 sacks last year. He had an interception against Jared Goff, 28 solo tackles. And although, you look at those numbers and you're like, there is no way this guy was a first-round pick. This guy is bad. He's not good for a first-round pick. That's actually not true. He's actually the heart. He's one of the guys, the heart and soul of this Dolphins defense. Really a guy that's an impact player. And the reason that he's an impact player is because he's such a good run defender. He came into the NFL as a defensive tackle that was supposed to be really solid, getting to the quarterback from the inside. And although he's been able to get to the quarterback a little bit, his personality is just off the charts. He's a guy that's really a team-first guy, but he's also really able to be a true plug guy for this Dolphins defense, especially as a run blocker, as a guy who can get after the football. He's just got a knack for the football. He likes to be in the middle of the play, and I just love what he's able to do. 20 total tackles, 47 total tackles on the season for him. But overall, let's keep on moving here. Raekwon Davis was a guy I absolutely loved watching last year. If you watch any Dolphins football, you'll know that big number 98 was in the middle of pretty much everything last season. Absolutely just, and the nose tackle of the Dolphins have been missing, right? And especially after losing Devon Godchaux to injury early on in the season, Raekwon Davis really stepped up, and arguably he was the best rookie defensive tackle all of last year. He was rated very highly by PFF, and he was just always around the football, didn't let anything past him, and he was a guy that was really influential for that Dolphins defense, especially at the heart of that Dolphins defense. Zach Sieler, another guy I thought that played pretty well too. Got after the quarterback a little bit more, but he's another one of those guys that he's probably more the pass rusher out of those front three, to be honest. But what Sieler's able to do is really get after the quarterback, high motor, high energy guy, earned a nice little contract. But overall, I love the combo of Wilkins, Raekwon Davis, and Zach Sieler. Davis and Wilkins much more as guys who can stop the run, and then Zach Sieler is a guy who can get after the quarterback. And then you got to look at the depth that the Dolphins added at the defensive tackle position. They also added John Jenkins this offseason as a guy who could add some depth to the defense. They had him 2 years ago when that team was really bad. And Adam Butler, too, another guy who played under Brian Flores in New England. Really solid defense tackle, really good for a backup too. This guy should easily be a starter in the NFL. But now let's talk about the real pass rushers. And let's start with Jaelan Phillips and Emmanuel Ogbah. I'll talk about Emmanuel Ogbah first. Emmanuel Ogbah was absolutely phenomenal last year. He obviously came over during free agency from the Kansas City Chiefs. I think it was a 2-year, $7.5 million deal per year. I think that was the deal. Don't quote me on that. But he ended up finishing the season with 9 sacks, 25 solo tackles, 3 forced fumbles. He was phenomenal for the Dolphins defense. Really, really good at getting to the quarterback. And he was a guy who was super productive. He was long, lanky, got around got around offensive lines. And he was just an overall athlete and defensive weapon for this Dolphins defense. Look for him to continue to do that, especially with some better pass rushers on this offense, on this defense side of the football now too. And talking about better pass rushers, Jaelan Phillips is an upgrade from Shaq Lawson, who was pretty quiet last year. Shaq Lawson was obviously traded in the Benardrick McKinney trade. But overall, Phillips is a guy who can get to the quarterback and show that he can get to the quarterback at the University of Miami last year. He had 15.5 total tackles for loss, but more importantly, he had 8 total sacks last year. And his high motor, high energy, high intensity reminds me a little bit of that Shaq Lawson type, except he was more productive and he's a little bit more athletic than Shaq Lawson. So I think that he can have a little bit more success at the NFL level. Him being picked up in the first round is absolutely huge, and he's a guy that I think can really add that nose for the football, nose for getting to the quarterback. Those are big things that I think could really help him and this Dolphins defense. So really for this Brian Flores defense, they like to rush 6, they like to rush 7, especially on third down. They like to go cover 0, and having guys that can really get after the quarterback and be really high motor, high energy, high intensity guys like Jaelan Phillips and Emmanuel Ogbah is a big part of this defense. And talking about big motor guys, Xavien Ginkel, 5.5 sacks last year, was absolutely massive in small situations for this Dolphins defense, and he's going to get more playing time. He really is going to get more playing time this year. Especially without Kyle Van Noy as part of the team. Kyle Van Noy left this offseason after being cut by the Dolphins, went back to New England. But Van Ginkel is a guy who was mostly a special teamer, but 5.5 sacks last year, was all around the football when he was on the field, had a massive fumble forced on Melvin Gordon that ended up giving the Dolphins a chance to win that game against Denver, ended up falling short. But he was an energy guy, and that's what I loved about Van Ginkel. Dolphins fans love Andrew Van Ginkel. And then let's look at the interior linebackers, the guys really at the middle of that defense. Jerome Baker is a budding star, does not get enough recognition. He's definitely on his way to a Pro Bowl. I think he had 7.5 sacks last year, but he was all around the football, led the team in tackles with 112 tackles. He had a massive sack on Patrick Mahomes. He is a high energy guy, really, really good run stopper. He's so fast. The sideline to sideline speed is uncanny. And he's a guy that can really get after the football, really flies around. And talking about flying around, Elandon Roberts is another guy who flies around, but he's much more of a thumper. And he was good in the run defense too. But Benardrick McKinney is the big guy that they decided to bring in this offseason to improve the defense side of the football at the linebacker position. And what Benardrick McKinney does is he adds that run defense idea. And he was injured last year. Remember, he was injured, but he's one of the better veteran linebackers in the NFL. Was one of the core of that Texans defense over the past few seasons. And although he did struggle with injuries last year, he's a hard-hitting linebacker. He's a hard-hitting, downhill, run-stopping linebacker that can really get after the football. So that's what the linebacking core really is for the Miami Dolphins next season. But now, though, let's talk about the secondary. And let's start with the corners. And the thing with Brian Flores is he loves having a ton of corners. And we saw what that meant this offseason when the Dolphins just kept on adding corners. Sure, they already have Xavien Howard, they already have Byron Jones, 2 of the better corners in the NFL. They brought in Igbinoghene last offseason, right, in the draft. But this offseason, they decided to bring in Jason McCourty. They brought in Justin Coleman as 2 really solid corners that are not only going to add depth to this defense, in the secondary, but you can never have enough good corners. Xavien Howard is really good. I don't even need to talk about him. 10 interceptions last year. He was phenomenal, arguably the best cornerback in all of football last year. And I thought that really improved the Dolphins defense a lot. His ability to cause interceptions, cause turnovers, keep the Dolphins back, keep the Dolphins in games. He was the reason the Dolphins were in games last year, because what he was able to do defensively with the pressure up front and coming up with big plays, he was a shutdown corner. Gave up, I think, like a 50 passer rating when targeted. He was absolutely phenomenal. Byron Jones, although if you watch his tape, he got burned a lot and did not look good whatsoever when the ball was being thrown at him. He did a lot more when the ball wasn't being thrown at him. The difference between this defense when Byron Jones was and was not on the field was absolutely instrumental. And what Byron Jones was able to do was really add another number 2 corner that could really help shut down guys. But more importantly, when he was being targeted, sure, he gave up some big plays. But when he was on the football field, quarterbacks really had to pay attention to what this defense wanted to do. The difference between Byron Jones and a guy like Nik Needham as your number 2 corner is a big difference. But at the end of the day, Byron Jones, when he was and wasn't on the field, massive difference for the Dolphins defense. So although he didn't play so well last year, his impact was definitely found. Igbinoghene, tough year for him last year, was mostly a special teamer after just being burned time and time again. But you got to remember, he's raw. He's only been playing the cornerback position for a few years, so he's still learning, still getting his wheels under him. And I think that Igbinoghene, if he's able to really establish himself as a solid man coverage corner and learn from Xavien Howard, learn from Byron Jones, learn from Jason McCourty, then that will be really important for this Dolphins defense. And you got to remember, this Dolphins defense loves playing man coverage. They're a heavy man team with Xavien Howard, Byron Jones, Jason McCourty obviously played a lot of man in New England. And he understands that role too. So that's another thing. So I think that's a good thing for Brian Flores. He's obviously got that familiarity. He's also got familiarity with Justin Coleman, who played under Brian Flores. No, he played under Matt Patricia. Justin Coleman actually might have played under Brian Flores in New England. I think he actually did. Never mind. But he also played under Matt Patricia in Detroit, so he's got the Patriots connections too. And he's another guy who's mostly a man coverage corner. And also, I mean, this secondary is just so deep with Igbinoghene, McCourty, Coleman, Nik Needham too, who's an absolute fantastic slot corner, who's in this depth chart is ranked number 6th on the depth chart in ideas of corners. But these guys are deep, and more importantly, they're skilled too. Howard and Jones are top end guys. Igbinoghene has the potential to be a really solid corner. McCourty has the experience. Justin Coleman, once again, more of an experienced guy, but a guy who can really be an impact guy as a slot corner. And then Nik Needham, who I think could honestly win the starting job as the slot corner. But overall, there's so many defensive backs that this team can trust, and you don't have to worry about playing Jamal Perry or Terrell Bonds, just because I think that the 6 corners that will be going into this Dolphins defense next year will be Xavien Howard, Byron Jones, Noah Igbinoghene, Jason McCourty, Justin Coleman, Nik Needham. Those are the 6 best guys, and it's clear they're deep, they're talented, and I think that they're going to be able to cause a lot of turnovers. And then safety wise, I loved them drafting Jevon Holland. A little sad to see Bobby McCain go, but Eric Rowe was really good at shutting down tight ends last year. Sure, he struggled against Darren Waller, and sure, he struggled against Travis Kelce, but he shut down everyone else. And to be honest, no one really shut down Travis Kelce or Darren Waller all season last year. So Eric Rowe did a really good job covering other teams' tight ends. As a strong safety, really making sure that he could cover tight ends very effectively, and that's what he did all year. More importantly, I think from a free safety perspective, not seeing Bobby McCain on the field is going to make me sad. He was a really big part of that Dolphins defense for the past few seasons. After being drafted, I think 6 years ago in the 4th or 5th round out of Memphis. But Jevon Holland, I love that pick for the Dolphins defense in the 2nd round. He is a guy who flies around the football field. He's a ball hawker, and him and Xavien Howard are really going to add that playmaking ball skills to this Dolphins defense in the back end. Holland can fly. He can fly. He's fast. He's a little bit of a stick. I see him as a stick when I watch him on tape, but he flies around the football field. He's versatile. You can line him up as a true free safety. You can line him up almost as a slot corner because he's got great coverage skills, great technique, great ball skills, and the great ability to go after the football and just find the football and be productive. So overall, I really like what this defense is all about. The secondary is really the core of how this defense is going to play. It's really what Brian Flores has emphasized with continuing to adding corners and continuing to add safeties to really improve those playmaking skills. But up front too, I mean, there are pass rushers on this team now. Van Ginkel had 5.5 last year. Emmanuel Ogbah had almost 10 sacks last year. Jaelan Phillips added 8 sacks at the University of Miami last year, so maybe he can have 7-ish sacks in the NFL. But this run defense is going to be good too with Baker, McKinney, Raekwon Davis, Wilkins. I think this could be a top 12 defense in the NFL. And I know they were top 6 defense in the NFL last year because of their points, but in reality, they were not a top 6 defense in the NFL. They were a top 18s. No, they were probably an average defense. They were probably like top 16 in the NFL just because of all the yards they gave up. But running the football, stopping the run, they were very good at that. It was more throwing the football. Byron Jones got burned a little bit. So overall, though, I think that this defense has the ability to be a top 12 defense in the NFL, especially without all the turnovers. I mean, we're not going to see Xavien Howard have 10 interceptions. We might see him at 4 or 5, but 10 is unlikely. So overall, I think this Dolphins defense and what Brian Flores likes to do, especially with, blitzing guys, bringing a ton of pressure from different places. He's got the speed on the defense to do that. He's got Andrew Van Ginkel. He's got Jaelan Phillips. He's got Jerome Baker, Emmanuel Ogbah. He's got Jevon Holland in the back end. He's got the speed to blitz and disguise. But more importantly, I love what Brian Flores and Josh Porter were able to do last year. And I think that with the guys that they added, they're only going to continue to get better. So that's why I think that they could be a top 12 defense in 2021 and really help this Dolphins team make the playoffs next season. And with that said, that's pretty much going to end the video for today. Did you agree with my analysis? Why or why not? Leave your comments and thoughts in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Also, if you're new around here, please drop a like and a sub on today's video. I'd really appreciate that. And with that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. And until next time, see ya.